All right, a 90-minute movie that understands the assignment. Yes. Let's talk about Drop. So, listen, I am actually a huge fan of the movie Happy Death Day. I appreciated parts of its sequel, and I was one of the people, I was one of the first who said Megan will get its sequel. So, when the producers of those films and the director of Happy Death Day came together to make this movie Drop, I knew what I was in for. Or I thought I knew what I was in for. Let me say it that way. I thought I was going to get a good time at the movie, good thrills, a decent story, and a movie, again, that understands what it needs to do. Because Happy Death Day, that's what I felt it did. It succeeded in that regard. What I didn't expect was to like Drop as much as I did. So let's get right into it, man. I'm going to actually start with my sweets because I don't have many sours at all. All right, so I saw the trailer for this movie a bunch, and if you haven't, here is the premise: a woman played by Megan Fahey is going out on a first date. After a while, she goes on her first date, and while she's there, she starts getting these they're airdrops, but you can't call them that because they're not using iPhones. But she's getting these messages from someone in the restaurant, and they're able to deduce that the airdrops have to be coming from someone in the restaurant because they can only be coming from someone up to 50 feet away from them. And these drops, they're weird messages, and they're saying, and they're like, "Hey, look at me, check me out." And at first she thinks they're a joke, but then she starts to take them seriously. And when she reads them, they're saying, "Hey, look at your home security cameras." She looks at her home security cameras and she sees there's an intruder in her house with a gun who can then threaten her sister and her son who are at home. So the messages then keep coming, and this person says, "You want to stop my associate from killing your family? Go ahead and just kill your date for me." Well, they actually ask her to do a bunch of things, but the ultimate goal is you got to kill your date. So that's the premise of this. And obviously she doesn't want to do that. One, because she's not a murderer, and two, because her date's a very good guy. We'll get to that in a little bit. So she's trying to save her family, save her date, and figure out who's sending this stuff. All right, that's the plot we get. First off, what I actually really like the setting here. So the entire movie takes place, or almost takes place, in this restaurant. Like I'd say 90% of it does when she goes to meet her date. And a restaurant's a great setting, especially this one, because it's intimate enough that you actually get to know the characters, like especially the two on the date, but the friendly bartender, the hilarious waiter, and other restaurant goers. But then it's big enough that when she starts trying to make her pool of suspects, it's a large enough venue that you're gonna keep guessing. Like, oh, is it the woman in pink? Is it the man who keeps looking at his phone over there? Is it the dude who's on a bad date? Like, so many different suspects here, right? I think it was very well executed in giving us a venue for both perspectives there. Again, big and small, big when it needs to be, small when it needs to be. So I like that. Now, Megan Fahey, her character is basically what drives this movie. She is fantastic. Fantastic. The movie opens on a scene with her where we see she's in a very abusive relationship. And, in the past, we see this happen, and it's a very gripping and tense and almost like hard to watch scene. And then it fast forwards to the future, and she's going on this date for the first time in a long time after having this experience. So she carries a lot of trauma with her, and it's really, I mean, outside of the plot of the movie, the character herself, I think she does a great job in bringing her to life. Like, it got to a point where I felt like I was actually watching a character, which is something a movie should always do. You should never feel like you're watching actors on screen, but watching the character. Fortunately, a lot of movies don't do that these days, or don't do that. I shouldn't say these days. A lot of movies just don't do that. But this one did. She was very good, and she was helped out immensely by her date named Henry in the movie, played by Brandon Skelner. Their chemistry was just off the charts. They felt like people on an actual first date, and it felt like actual decent people. And as a side note, Henry is the perfect man. Seriously. He is what we should all aspire to be. The level of patience and understanding he shows is phenomenal. Like, as things are going awry and, she's basically looking at her phone and being given like different commands to do, like, hey, go over here and talk to this person, go over here and distract this person, whatever. She's basically being frantic, and she's obviously worried about her family at home, worried about having to, ultimately kill this dude, and worried about like this dude or this mystery person who's clearly watching everything she's doing. So Brandon Skelner, I appreciate he picks up on something is wrong. It could have been easy to just have him be just a dude who just is there, and stuff is happening. He's just sitting there as she runs around the restaurant. But no, he's an actual character. He's like, hey, let me help you. Like, clearly something is wrong. Do you want to cancel the date? Like, do you like, are you still worried about whatever messages you're getting? Like, let me help you. Like, he's actually a good person, and I really dug that. But what really gets me, there's a scene in this movie that like it will never be up for Oscar consideration, but it should be, because Megan Fahey and Brandon Skelner, they get to a point where they talk about her past trauma, and then he speaks about his past trauma, and they have a dialogue, and then she has a monologue that is so beautiful, so powerful, and like palpable. Like, yeah, I was tearing up almost as she was speaking, and the camera work was so great because, and I'll get to this also, the cinematography, but in this particular shot, the background is basically blurred out, and it's all the ambient noise is cut, so you literally only hear her voice, his voice, and then her voice while she's doing her monologue. It was excellently done to make you focus on what she was saying, make you focus on like this again, she's carrying this trauma, and she basically explains why she doesn't think she's worthy of happiness. It was a powerful moment, and it almost made me forget what kind of movie I was watching. So kudos to her. Now, about the type of movie I was watching, I mean, like I said, it gave me what I wanted. The thrills were great. The suspense, the twists, they were all great. I was playing along with her, being like, "Hey, you need to go. Is it that guy? Could it be that woman? Like, oh, we got to go to the hostess stand and check the cameras. Like, it was fun. It was a fun movie, man. Like, I was really into it. And even though in the beginning, it doesn't, let me say this, it also doesn't take a long time to get to the point. I love that. The pacing in this movie was great. And yeah, in the beginning, let me say it this way. It follows the pattern you think it's going to follow, but it does it really, really well. So the way the mystery is set up, the way, she starts to understand that she's kind of helpless in this, and then, her ultimately trying to overcome it. It follows the same arc you'd expect, but again, it's done very, very well, and I really dug. Like, I was there for the mystery, I was there for the twist, and I was actually kind of intrigued at the whole reason why she specifically was chosen. So there is that. Oh, and yeah, man. Again, the cinematography. It was just they put a lot more into this movie than I thought they would. Like, in the somewhat action scenes that are in here, like the camera really moves. So it talks about how there are moments where the camera like cuts out the ambient sound. There's also moments where it like cuts out the entire background, and it's kind of like a spotlight is on this one character. So it's like they're isolated from everything else, and you're paying attention to them. That's cool. There's a moment where like the a character like flips, so the camera like flips with it, and like when a character falls, like the camera drops, so like you're like kind of getting a POV of being in this restaurant with this person. So it's really cool. It again does a great job of bringing you into the film, and yeah, I really dug it, man. Like I'm really surprised by how much I liked it. The acting, the character development, the character arcs, the character chemistry, the thrills, the mystery, all of it just wrapped up into this tight 90-minute plot, man. We need more of this. As for Sour, it's not. Is this I'm gushing over it, but is it a perfect movie? Absolutely not. There are, you know, quite a few moments, especially in the end, where you're like, you're gonna have to turn off your brain. Like, if someone gets shot in their arm doesn't work anymore. Like, that's impossible. Also, like when the climax is happening, there's a couple things happening like with time. Like it doesn't seem that someone can go like the restaurant they're on is like on, let's say it's like at least 50 stories up. It doesn't seem someone can get down 50 stories and get to a certain place in a certain amount of time, and they do. But and it clearly doesn't seem like when someone's fighting, there's someone who's definitely more like superior in that fight, and they end up losing. It's just certain things that happen where you're like, okay, I'm going to just accept it because it's a movie, but it's actually that just wouldn't happen. And it's again, it's noticeable because a lot of the movie is done like very well, and then the movie stuff comes in, and you're like, okay, yeah, so this is the movie stuff. So I'd say that's the sour. But overall, I think this is a great movie. I think it actually is. It's a great date movie. They're on a first date. You can bring a date to it, and I think you'd have a great time watching this. It's a great time at the movies. I actually would probably even get this on digital. Like I definitely would watch it again, man. I'm gonna give this one a 4 out of 5. You know what? No, we'll give it a 4.25 out of 5. That's gonna be your small couch review score. So, drop. Let me know if you see it. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you like it as much as I do. And you didn't even, I always complain about time, but I didn't even say that this time. It was again, this movie understood its assignment and it did it very well. Okay. All right. I appreciate you guys listening to me talk. Until next time, I'm out.